Four wheelers are dope.
Right, you would have loved that pool party.
Yeah, whatever.
The pool party, yeah. I was just thinking about the whole time. No, I was thinking about Matt Brown when we were walking up those stairs. I don't think he would have. I think he would have just sat.
He would have been able to.
No, I honestly, I think after like the third like zip line thing where we had to go up 100 flights of stairs, I think he would have been like, I'm good.
Right, we jumped down on this bungee cord,
Yeah.
and then you walk 10 feet, and it's literally another stairway.
Yeah, I know, dude. It was so bad. And I'm like as mad.
Yeah, people don't think about that on a zip line. It's like you have to get up somewhere.
Yeah.
It'd be cool just from the ground to go underground into a cave.
Now I can see y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be dope. Go underground into a cave and the zip line and drop cave water or whatever.
Nice. Nice.
Yo, what's up, Brizzy Brax? What's up, Brax Monday?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up, dude? What's up? Amazing when you do that.
What?
What's up?
What's
All
up?
right, cool. Looks like we're good now, I think. Thanks, Edgar.
What's up, T Money? I see you.
Oh, that was that was
Okay, so we back in business now. Can everybody hear us? On this one, looks like we can see, hear everybody. So we're good to go. Are we on 15 or 16 with the laws? I missed last week. Casey did last week for us. So we'll go to Steve Ellis on this one. He seems to
We're on 15.
have all the notes. What number are we on, Steve?
15. We lost 14 last week. Case. Can you hear us?
Yeah, you can hear us. Can you hear us, Tom?
I can't hear anything.
Oh,
You guys are shaking your head.
I think he said 15. They did
Can you guys
14
hear?
last week.
Christina, I
Can you
can't
hear
hear you either.
Tell Tommy to turn up.
Can you guys
I
hear
can-
Christina?
Yeah, I
You
can hear. Yeah.
Oh, there
Tommy,
we
if you try turning it on and off
He
again.
can't hear you, Matt Brown.
I got it now. My computer was on mute. It just muted by itself. Marquise, you look good. Like you just got a fresh fade, fresh haircut.
Thank you. I did.
Nice. Nice, man. Hey, you guys rocking the beards, man. I've been a big beard oil guy for a long time now. So I recommend if you rock some beards, definitely make sure you shave it up here, shave it up down here, so you're looking nice and smooth. And then I get this this balm from Art of Shaving. It's like short stubble balm, and you rub it in there, and then you get the oil, and then you rub the oil in there, and then people look at you and you're like, there's something up about that guy. I can't really put my finger on it, but he's sharp. You know, it gives you that little bit extra shine going on there. So little word to the guys rocking the beards, you know. But anyways,
Thank you, Tommy.
what is the chapter that we were on? I couldn't hear you, Steven.
We're on 15.
15. Okay, awesome. Let's go to chapter 15, law of leadership, number 15 today, and we'll take it from there. Thanks, Edgar.
Wait, are you just gonna send it to me?
The law of victory.
Law number 15 was the law of.
Okay.
Okay, everybody ready?
And the law of victory says leaders find a way for the team to win. In other words, leaders have the ability to bring victory to the people. In your notes, I have this statement: victorious leaders find the alternative to winning unacceptable. So they find out what needs to be done to achieve victory. And then they go after it with everything at their disposal. Now, if you'll let me just use a sports illustration just for a second. Classic example of somebody who understood the law of victory was Michael Jordan. just had the ability to bring the team to victory. And even when he went over to the Washington team in the NBA, a team that had been lowly, they almost made the playoffs. Because anything less than victory is unacceptable to Michael Jordan. You show me a person, a leader that does this law well, and I'll show you a person that absolutely hates losing. As I've looked at the great leaders in history, they all excelled in this law. Whether it's in our country, George Washington, who absolutely is determined to allow our country to be free from British rule, and stakes his life in 6 years, never hardly goes home to stay out there with his soldiers as they are undermanned and underrated to make sure that they bring this victory home, and finally he does. Whether it's a George Washington or an Abraham Lincoln, who knows that the bloodiest time in our history is going to be a civil war, but he's willing to go through those dark hours so that we can eventually take this injustice off of our African American and friends and bring us to a new day. All of the great leaders understand and bring forth the law of victory. Perhaps my favorite leader of all is the leader of England, Winston Churchill, during World War II, who absolutely refused to allow the Nazis to gain control of Europe. And in the darkest hours, spoke great words of victory to his people. I love the statement I have in your notes about him. Winston Churchill asked the question, what is our aim? I answer in one word, victory. Victory in spite of all terror, however long and hard the road may be, for without victory, there is no survival. So, what does the law of victory look like? Let's put a picture on it so we can understand it. Let's make the law of victory tangible. First of all, leadership is responsible. You show me a leader that brings his or her team to victory, and I'll show you a leader that takes responsibility. They take responsibility when defeat happens. They say, look, it was my problem. I was the leader. So the first part or component of the law of victory in leadership is that the leader takes responsibility. No excuses. Boy, don't you know some people? Every time there's a problem, they got 17 reasons why it's not them. Huh? If and but and if and but. If ifs and buts were candy, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. The other day, I love this. I picked this up. This is some true explanations why people have automobile accidents, as reported to the police when they were doing the report. And some of these excuses just crack me up. Such as this person said, as I reached an intersection, a hedge sprang up. Hedges will do that often, obscuring my vision. Wasn't my fault. The hedge grew fast. An invisible car came out of nowhere, struck my car and vanished. The telephone pole was approaching fast. Those moving telephone poles do it every time. I attempted to swerve out of its path when it struck my front end. I hate it when telephone poles do that. The indirect cause of this accident was a little guy in a small car with a big mouth. I'd been driving my car for 4 years when I fell asleep at the wheel and had an accident. After 4 years, you'll do that. I was on my way to the doctors with rear end trouble when my universal joint gave way, causing me to have an accident. To avoid hitting the bumper of the car in front, I struck the pedestrian. Makes perfect sense to me. I was coming home, pulled into the wrong driveway, and hit a tree that I did not have. The pedestrian had no idea which direction to run, so I ran over him. Make up your mind. Make up your mind. The guy was all over the road and I had to swerve a number of times before hitting him. This was not easy. This was not easy. I pulled away at the side of the road, glanced at my mother-in-law, and headed over the embankment. That's probably the only one that wasn't an excuse. Now, it's just simple. The law of victory says, very simple, leaders take responsibility. Own up. The second thing the law of victory looks like is losing is unacceptable. Losing is just not acceptable. Thirdly, passion is unquenchable. You show me a person in the law of victory, and I'll show you a person that is passionate about winning. Creativity is essential. Why? Because you're going to have to constantly be creative to work yourself out of messes to bring victory. The victory is not an escalator to the top. Quitting is unthinkable. They will not quit. Commitment is unquestionable. And because of those preceding things, victory is inevitable. That's just a fact. I'm very fortunate because I have people around me who understand this law very well. And in my inner circle, they really do understand the law of victory. David Sutherland, who's the president of Enjoy Stewardship Services, that's the organization that raises money for nonprofit organizations. David, I many times go to him and I say, David, of all the people I know, you are Mr. Law of Victory. You just don't allow my team to lose. You don't allow my company to lose. You're going to make it happen. And I knew he was the law of victory when I brought him into my organization. It was very, very small. And it was right after Thanksgiving. I was over at the office one day and I saw his wife, Roxine, and I noticed Dave was gone. I said, Roxine, where's Dave? Well, I said, John, his goal was X amount of contracts this year, and he's 7 contracts short. So on Thanksgiving Day, he left and said, I hope to be home for Christmas, but I won't be home till I have the other 7 contracts. So Roxine said, I'm not sure when he'll be home, but when it comes home, he'll have the contract. He came home 2 days before. All 7 of them signed. You see, Dave's a leader that isn't going to allow the team to lose. He just is not going to allow the team to lose. Kevin Small, who's the president of Enjoy, we got ready to put together a major leadership simulcast all over America with some of the major players such as Jack Welch and Rudy Giuliani and that whole process. And I can remember the day that Kevin came to us and said, I want to do this simulcast. And my brother and I looked at him and said, well, it's going to take a lot of money and we're going to have to probably have a cash flow issue. And the only way we're going to let you do that is if you go out and we threw out, we said, you're just going to have to get leaders like Jack Welch or Rudy Giuliani for us to do this simulcast, because you're just going to have to make it so great that everybody's going to want to watch it. And he disappeared. And I went to his assistant. I said, where's Kevin? She said he went after Jack Welch and Rudy Giuliani. Said he would be back when he had it. 8 days later, he came back with signed contracts. Jack Welch, Rudy Giuliani, and an all-star team of life. You see, Kevin understands. He understands the law of victory. It's just a very simple law. It's a law that basically says, if you're a leader, you realize your responsibility isn't to get across the line first. Your responsibility is to take everybody that's on your team across the line. You see, the law of victory is not an individual award. The law of victory is not an individual trophy. It basically says, because you got across the line and helped everybody else get across the line, you took everybody on your team to a higher level. The law of victory says, yes, you won, but so did all the players around you. The law of victory can probably be expressed best in the words of Bill Russell, who said after every basketball game with the Boston Celtics, which he led to many world championships, said, after every game, I evaluate my game, not based on how well I played. I evaluate my game on how well the players around me played, because he said, my main job is to make them all just a little bit better. So the law of victory is not a single award for a single person doing a single job. No, no, no. You see, you're a leader. Don't go to the top by themselves. Oh, they go to the top. But when they go to the top, they're like my friend Jim Whittaker, who 20 people to the top of Mount Everest. He said, the greatest joy is not getting there myself. Once I did it, I knew I could do it. Now, the question is, can I bring victory to everybody else? That's the law of victory. This is audible.
Stop sharing the screen. Stop sharing the screen. At the top.
Can't hear you.
There we go. Victory. That's what the V, right? You know, the whole USA chant, we're like, I believe that. I believe that we, right? I believe that we will win. It's the law of victory right there. Starts in the belief. So love this law. Obviously, it's great for us in business. We use a lot of sports analogies anyways, you know, going from the student athlete to a business athlete, as we like to say. So what stood out to you guys? First of all, what jumped out to you guys? What hit home? Anything that you'd like to share with everybody?
I like it's not an
Yeah, is
individual
someone else
award.
going? I can't hear.
Who was that?
I thought someone else was talking, but I'll go.
All right.
Okay.
Christina.
So I liked the Winston Churchill quote, the without victory, there's no survival. That was big. And even what he started off with, he goes so fast, I couldn't get all the in-betweens, but I got the first sentence and the last one. The first one was, what is our aim, victory? And then he closed it out with, without victory, there's no survival. So I think like if that's your end goal, right, is just kind of like moving your whole team to the next level, like he says later on, like, you know what I mean? That's like your goal, that's your aim, then you really won't fail. That was big.
Do we have Mason saying something over there?
Yeah, you know, I said something. I like that it was not an individual award, that if you're at the top by yourself, that you basically did it wrong. Because you need to take your team with you or it will get real lonely up there.
Yeah. If it's lonely at the top, you didn't take enough people with you.
I like that how he said creativity is essential to victory. But like you say, you know, you always have to think of more ways to work smarter and, you know, be creative in how you manage your time and all that. Like that was real key for me.
Yes. Time management's huge. We could talk about that forever.
I really liked at the very end when he was talking about, I'm not sure if he was talking about MJ specifically, but he said that his game was based off of how everyone else on my team is playing, because my job is to help everyone be better. And that kind of goes back to the law of the lid. It's like you can only really go so high as like your leader. So it's like if your leader's only doing this much, like how can you expect your players to be doing this much? So I just thought that was definitely hit home, because we already did the law of the lid, and they all kind of like connect together. So I thought that was that's huge, because that's what you want to do, is you want to, you know, bring your team to the top, but everybody has to go with you. You can't just do a little bit here and then a little bit there and expect everyone to win. It just doesn't go together.
Yeah, that's fire, Marissa. I think that I love how like there's so many connections with all the different laws and how they like all work in like a cycle. One thing that I got from when he was kind of like going through all the different like adjectives for different words, I think he was saying like quitting. He said creativity is essential and quitting is unthinkable. And like he went through that list of things really quickly. But like one thing that I got from that was really just understanding like if you really want victory, sometimes you do have to be creative to figure out different ways to do things. And I feel like we're spin doctors in this business. So sometimes we have to think on our feet. We go into an appointment thinking this, and then all of a sudden this happens, and then we get a curveball, and then we have to think on our feet. So I think that was pretty dope. And then like quitting is unthinkable. It's like when you think about somebody that goes out and gets their victories, they really don't quit. Like things are gonna be in their way, and we have to have that mindset too. So I thought that was dope.
Yeah, that part was what I liked when he went over those, like quitting is unthinkable, and he used all those different, sort of analogies and stuff. I like that. Leave it up for anybody else before we roll on.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, Faith.
Yeah, I just liked the first thing when he just says leadership is responsible and that leaders take responsibility, which honestly reminds me a lot of Reich, who we all know is an amazing leader, because every time something happens or an agent doesn't do something they were supposed to, like whatever it may be, he's like, my fault, and like, I think that's huge, because especially with this, like you can't realistically be mad at somebody who doesn't necessarily know better. Like it all falls back on you. And I think that's huge, because if you have a leader that isn't taking responsibility, then that's going to bleed into everybody else. And then no one's like accountable for each other. They're not accountable for themselves. And then I think that's kind of how things fall apart. And then you're just playing the blame game, And so at the end of the day, I think like a true leader, one of the main things that even in general I've seen in life is somebody that like will take responsibility, even for something that they didn't do. Okay, fine, I'll clean it up. It's second grade, I'll clean it up just because I don't want it there, whatever it may be. I think it's also just comes with maturity as well. So that was like one of my favorite things.
Huge. Yeah, maturity. That's big. That's big. And I think he mentioned it before in one of the previous laws, where he said that when the team does well, I give all the credit to the team. But when the team does not do well, it's all my fault. I apologize. There's something I should have done. We lost. It's my fault, guys. I don't know. I should have ran another practice this week. I should have did better scouting on the opponent. I should have called different plays. I wasn't hype enough. I didn't get everybody fired up. My pregame speech wasn't good enough. I should have told you to call tails. I told you to call heads. Like it's all my fault, right? So that's huge in leadership. Just absolutely huge. A huge. I can't even tell you how big that is, and it shows, and the team can see that. People see. They can see that. So great stuff there, guys. So I went ahead and made I basically put together the vision for next year around this time, and we're gonna need I'd like to have 20 MGAs by the end of the year, but I'll just tell you that my backup plan is we want to have these MGAs developed by the first quarter of next year, but I want to have it done by the end of this year. So worst case scenario by first quarter of next year. So I'm just going to share this with you guys, because some of you guys are already in leadership. Some of us are about to be in leadership on the call. So so much can happen. And let me just bring this to light real quick, okay? I want you to think about this. Last year, at the beginning of 2020, okay, Geo was a GA and Vince was an SA. Okay, I was an MGA. So that was my team. I was the MGA Gio was the GA, Vince was the SA. Now, I was also the RGA, and I was also a partner in the agency, you know, but I always had my MGA team, and that was my squad. It was me, Gio, and Vince. That was our squad. Josh was an MGA. Drew was a GA. And I was the RGA over that, right? And that's what was the beginning of the year last year. Now, what we would have done last year, you got to really think about this. It's not that crazy, but last year in 2020, what would have happened if we stayed in Pittsburgh? Anybody know? Here's what would have happened. Gio would have been a GA for the entire year of 2020. And what we would have done is we would have convinced Gio to try and go on stage and be the #1 GA in the company. So he would stay back as a GA, and we'd build up a big GA team, because that was just how I always wanted to do it. If for me personally, if I ever got promoted to an SA, I wanted to be the #1 agent first. You know, so I did that. My first month, I was #1 agent. The second goal was like, if now I'm a supervisor, I don't really want to go to be a GA unless I master and I'm like the #1 supervisor. Because once I go to a GA, I can't be like, all right, you want to know what? If I look at my career, I never checked off the box of being like the #1 SA. So now I'm an MGA, and I'm like, man, I want to go back and be an SA just so I can check that off. Once you pass the SA, you're never going to go back to check that box off. So you only got one opportunity as an SA to be the #1 SA, because before you know, you're going to be a GA. So I had to crush it as an SA. Problem for me though, I was only an SA for 1 month. So I never had an opportunity to be the #1 SA. I was it for 1 month. I might've been for that month. I can't even remember. It flew by, you know? So some people they say, Tommy, what did you do when you're an SA? I said, I tried to stop being an SA as soon as I possibly could, you know? And they say, well, if I'm an SA, what would you recommend to do? I said, get your ass to a GA. That's what I'd recommend to do. Yeah, I can't keep it any simpler than that. But for me, it was such a fast transformation, because when I started my first month, I recruited 10 personals. So they all came in the door, and boom, I was an SA. But the second month, I had another 10 personals come through, and they're like, we got to make you a GA. We got 10 people on your team already. We got to create room. There's going to be a traffic jam here, you know, so we got to open this thing up. So I stepped up to the GA. My boy stepped up to an SA who was my fullback in high school. My fullback in high school, Lou Fanny, stepped up, was able to be an SA with me, you know what I mean? And we were rocking. Joe Kuzmenko got promoted, was my dad's friend from work, son, who just graduated college. So some of you guys have dads and moms, okay? Your mom and dad work at places right now, okay? And all their friends that they work at have kids, and all their kids graduated, and they're all looking for jobs right now. That's how I got about 5 to 6 personal recruits in my first 2 months. Just real quick on the side, okay? So what the heck am I talking about here? I was telling you how, so then I worked 6 months as a GA, and that's when I became the MGA. You know, so it took me about 8 months or whatever to become an MGA. So anybody here from now until the end of the year is 8 months. So it took me 8 months to become an MGA from scratch when I was 24 years old, and I didn't even know what was going on. I just came in, I was 24 years old. They said, recruit the lights out. I recruited the people. I got the 10 people in the door submitting 2,000 a week. We're doing 20,000 a week. They said, you're an MGA. You get 10 people, do 2,000 a week each. Your team does 20,000, you're an MGA, and you're making about $200,000 a year. You make $4,000 a week for the rest of your life. So I just hurried up to try and get there as quick as I possibly could, you know? So anyways, let's go back to the story though, okay? So Gio would have been a GA, and Vince would have been all last year. Guess what Vince would have been? An SA. So that means at the beginning of this year, 4 months ago now, about 4 months ago, Gio would have been an MGA. Vince would be a GA right now. Where do you think Hunsberger would be? Where would Pat Sullivan be? non-existent. You know? So because we all made this sacrifice, because I was good, we were good, that's good. That's still pretty darn good for everybody. I mean, believe me, for Vince all that, for Vince to be a GA right now, and for Gio to be an MGA right now, and for Gio to be making $250,000, 300,000 this year, and Vince to be making 150,000 this year is good. I don't think anybody's going to say that's bad. Is that good? But we had the opportunity to go be great, right? So now, instead of Vince making $150, now Vince should make well over 250, and Gio could make a damn near 750 this year. Gio's going to make $300,000 just in growth bonuses. At least one time this year, you're going to see $100,000 deposited into Gio's bank account at one time on one single day. I'm hoping it's one day in July, right around my birthday, so I can hit him up for a good birthday gift. No, so anyways, that's the growth that I'm on. So I want you guys to know, like, we know how to do it. Okay, it's a system. There's systems and procedures that we have to master and learn. Trust me, guys. Like, you can do this your own. You can try and just make up your own stuff, but you're going to put all the pressure on yourself. And then if something breaks, if it breaks down, if it doesn't work, it's going to be all our fault because I did it all my way. So you can win your way, or you can win my way, which my way ain't my way. My way is just what all the millionaires tell me to do. And I don't pick and choose. I just say, this is what you tell me to do. Okay, great. 2 o'clock, do this. Okay, great. Take this report, say these words to who? Okay, after the freedom of choice certificate, take it away. Okay, whatever they tell me to say and tell me to do, and solidification, tell me to promise to. I made a lot of promises to you. You got to make a promise to me no matter what. You keep this. Hey, you tell me to do the promise to, I'll do the promise to on solidification. You want me to send thank you cards at 11 o'clock on Thursday? I'm sending thank you cards on 11 o'clock on Thursday. Like, it has to be so darn 100% like obsessed with getting the system down, guys. And when I first started, I didn't even know the system. They had to teach me the system, and I messed it up. I did this, I did that. And sometimes I messed it up because they told me what to do and I thought I knew better. And it was real quick. I learned this one. So I'm a financial advisor, you know, I come into the game. I have all kind of, knowledge, and I knew more than all these new people, right? I did, pension maximizations for clients before. Like, people didn't even know what pension max was. So, and I could teach you guys a pension max, which is pretty cool, by the way. Okay, which is basically this. It says, Joe Mayer, would you rather get, $2,000 a month, or would you rather get $2,000 a month and have $100,000 in the bank? That's a pension max right there. I could sell that all day. But anyways, so I came in and they gave me the leads. So I couldn't believe that we had leads. So I literally would sit at my desk and be trying to figure out, who am I going to call? I mean, I called everybody in my phone. I mean, I got some people from this event last week. I could try and call them again. Maybe I'll call one of my clients and see if they got any referrals for me. Oh, maybe I'll take my client out to lunch, and then when I'm at lunch with them, then I'll ask them for referrals. Like, I'm trying to think of every way possible how I'm going to get a client next week. How am I going to get a client? I don't even know. What do I do? So when I came here, they gave me all these names to call. I was like, holy shit. I called the people, they answered, and within 3 minutes, they said, sure, tomorrow at 5 o'clock works good. Come over to my house. I never met this person before in my life. And within 3 minutes, they're agreeing to allow me to come over to their house and sit at their kitchen table. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is nuts. Well, good. You know why? It's because we have a crazy system. We have a PR team. We have a letter from their union president. The person filled a card out. Their president, John Smith, signed off on the program. We have an endorsement from their union president. So I just couldn't believe how quick the appointments were setting. So he's like, make sure you have 8 appointments on your schedule for Friday, 8 appointments on your schedule for Saturday. And it was my manager who was rolling out with me. He was rolling out with me for the day. And And so at the end of the day, I booked it up, and I booked one at like, I think I booked 5 appointments. You know, I booked one at like 4, 5, 6, or like, you know, right. I booked 5 appointments basically. I can't remember what the times were. Okay. And at the end, he's like, I told you to book 8. I said, oh, if we book 8 appointments, we're not going to see them all. And I'm not the type of person to tell somebody that I'm going to do something and not do it. So I didn't feel comfortable booking 8 appointments knowing I'm not going to see them all. I thought that was messed up, you know? So I booked 5. So then Friday comes around. We drive an hour and a half to Uniontown. Mason, can you verify this? What's the distance from North Hills of Pittsburgh to Uniontown, Pennsylvania? Is it greater or less than an hour and a half?
It's like an hour 45.
You got it. So that was my area. So we drive all the way down there. We go to the first house. They're not there. Go to the second house. She's there. Husband's not there. Go to the third house. They're not there. You get the point? That day we gave one presentation to a person who was medically uninsurable. At the end of the day, he said, "You gonna start listening to me now?" I was like, "Whatever you say, bro. I'm done overthinking the shit. I don't know why. I thought I knew better. I thought I knew better. Trust me. There's a rhyme and a reason behind everything, guys. Trust me. So do your diligence, do the best you can to learn this system and to apply the system, to practice the system and master the system. And then once you do that, then we can make adjustments to the system. It's like an agent, when they go out and they do the presentation, you're only going to close 1 out of 3 with this presentation. That's what's going to happen. So they go out there and they do the presentation and they don't close the first person. So now they think that there's something wrong with the presentation. So they change the presentation a little bit. And then they go see the next person and they don't sell that person. So then they change the presentation again. And then they start making small adjustments, changes, adding things in, taking things out. They heard, Casey in a workshop mentioned this one time. So they put that in the presentation. Like they just start. And now it's not really a systematic, consistent presentation. So when you bring it to me and I'm like, all right, let's see what we got to adjust in your presentation. There's nothing consistent about it that we could even adjust because it's all different all the time. So that's why it's important to have consistency in how do you say your child's safe presentation. When you spit the freedom of choice certificate, how do you spit it? It needs to be the same way every time. That way, if we need to adjust it a little bit, we can do that. Because you're going to be good. If you do it the same way every time, then you're going to get pretty consistent results over the course of a month or 13 weeks. That's why it's important for us to track the numbers, because it's not feelings, it's all data and all numbers. Sometimes we could get caught in our feelings and we could actually, have get on our high horse and think we're better than we actually are. So like, it's important to know, like, you did a great job last week, writing 9,000, but I mean, top agents in the company were doing 39,000. So Mason thinks his 9,000 is good, but hey, just to put him on some humble stuff, there's people doing 39,000 and they've been with the company for 2 months. You've been with the company for 3 months and did 9. They've been with the company for 2 months and did 19. So now I got somebody in a bad situation where they're in their head and they think that they're horrible. I stink at this. I'm no good at this. This is not good. I had a bad week or whatever, bad month. My job for that is to tell them, actually, dude, people got it way worse than you. There's people who don't even got a job right now. You got a career that's going to pay you residual income for the rest of your life with a team around you that's supporting you and helping you get back on your feet. And dude, you did 4,000 Okay. You're in your second month. It's not horrible. It's not horrible. And look at and here's the deal is when we got to keep people even kill. So they do really well. Make sure we know that we keep them even kill. They're same thing. But what's going to help with all that is the numbers. The numbers are going to help if you know the numbers. So I might show this one person that you're at 4,000 for the month, okay, which is 1,000 ALP a week. But look at this. In order to double, to go from 4,000 to 8,000, if we look at your numbers, we don't got to double anything. In fact, you are about, in order to do 2,000 a week, you got to make about 600 phone calls, right? You're making right now about 500 phone calls a week. That's why you're hitting 1,000. So to get this other 100 phone calls a week, basically that's like 15 phone calls a day. You're literally 15 phone calls away from doubling what you're doing right now, right? And we can show them that data if we have the data to go back to. I'm huge on the numbers. It's happened for me before where I thought I was doing really bad and I looked at the numbers and I just wasn't doing enough. Like my stats were good. I had a higher than average closing ratio. My show ratio was solid, but I wasn't doing enough of it. And it came down to referral collecting. My referral collections were weak. I was averaging like 2.5 referrals a sit down. That was an eye opener. And for me personally, it was an eye opener, guys. So what I do now is I know for me personally, it really helped me. So that's how I coach my people. You know, I always think like, what helped you? Like what when you were having a bad day, what did you tell yourself? And then like, that's what I tell my agents. I don't like, if my agent's having a bad day, I mean, what advice can I give my agent? Only advice I could really give them is what I know. Like, so what did you do to coach yourself up through your career, Tommy? And what did you do when you had new agents and you helped coach them up in their career? How did you help coach the number one agent, Tommy? Because I had number one agent was coming from my squad with the highest retention all the time. Gio was number one. Gio was number one. And it was a dogfight. And the other guy was selling personals and all kind of baloney. And he had bad retention for a year after that because he tried to run with Gio. See, he tried to get in the race with Gio, right? And he was trying to keep up with Gio. Eventually what happened is he blew his hamstring. Because he couldn't keep up with Gio. And then Gio passed him up at the end of the year, did like 150,000 or whatever he did that year. And he was our number one agent in the agency, right? So I just know that what was I doing when I was coaching him up? It was a lot on the numbers. I had to go back to the data. With him to give him some real true advice, you know? So that's why these stat sheets that you guys have and the dashboards, it's really important for you to have your data. And then also if you're able to do it for yourself, then you're going to be able to do it for your team, you know? So that's important as well. So back to it now, guys. Just how cool is this that right now, instead of Gio being an MGA and Vince being a GA right now, you know, we got a whole slew of opportunity right in front of us. So I'm looking at this opportunity. I'm like, in 8 months, if I could be an MGA in 8 months and I don't even know what's going on, and I had to recruit people who had to drive to the office. Like, imagine that. If I wanted to hire somebody, they had to live probably within about a 20-mile radius of my office. Because beyond that, nobody wants to drive to work. They're like, oh, I'm not driving an hour every day to work. This would stink, right? So they didn't want to drive to the office. So I had a 20-mile radius to recruit from. Just keeping that in mind. And I blew up and did all that. And you know, I made 120 my first year, 200,000 my second year, 500 my third year, all driving, you know, recruiting people in person. So I had to call, first of all, I had to take time. How many of you guys are taking time on a weekly basis to generate recruiting resources for yourself? you know? So that's the first thing I had to do is well, first I had to have a plan. So I had to have a plan. I had to know the numbers and I had to have a recruiting plan. And it was all numbers. Because I couldn't leave it up to chance. I wanted to know, like, what's a system that I could kind of adopt? What's a system that I can plug into that I at least know will get me some results on a basis? So it basically would come down to this. If you want to know the recruiting numbers real quick, what I know is that when you make 25 recruiting phone calls, that should take you about an hour. Okay, you're gonna talk to 5 people and book 2 of them for an interview. So essentially, we should book about 2 per hour if we're making recruiting phone calls. You know, so then I had to figure out, well, how many hires do I want to get for a week, right? Well, let's say that I wanted to generate 4 hires for a week. That means to get 4 hires, how many interviews set does it take to get 1 hire? For us coming in, it was about 10-1 for our agency right now. For me, it was 14-1 is the number I used. Right now, live numbers for us, our recruiting system, when you get a candidate and you put them into our system, when basically if they watch the company overview, if you put them into the company overview, the chances of that person getting hired is higher than if you put them in any other company overview in the company. So Natalie Linker, our director, she said, Tommy, your statistics on the quality, not the quantity. I'll be honest with you guys. Our quantity is horrible. We're not even coming close. We're not getting enough interviews set. I'm just going to let you guys know that right now. We're playing the do the least, get the most game. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to try and get 3 personals in and that's it. I played the quantity game, the numbers game. So the quantity game said that for me, it was for every 14 interviews you book for a week, you're going to get 1 hire, right? So if we use 10 here, we'll use 10 as an example, and you guys can change the number around if you want to, but we'll use 10 today. So to get 4 hires this week, I need to have how many interviews booked? About 40. I need 40 interviews booked, right? So now check this out, guys. In order to get 40 interviews, how many hours of calling is that going to take? 20 hours of calling. And that's at 2 per hour. And I would always plan on 1.5 just to be safe. So it would probably be more like 27 hours or something of calling when you figured it really out. Because you want to do always lowball things, you know. They tell me 2, I would say I'm just going to plan on 1.5. So this is what I did. I always planned 1.5 an hour. And I would tell my caller, you got to get 2 set per hour. Meanwhile, I'm good with 1.5. You know, so you would hire a caller and I'd have the caller call for about 20, 25 hours a week to get the job done. I would still make a few calls too. My managers make some calls too. If I was in a GA, or an MGA, I'd have some managers, they'd make calls too. But now the second part of this equation is you got to have the man hours. So I hired the person, got the man hours in. You could pay them like $10 an hour plus a bonus and have it come out to be where they make about $15 an hour, you know? So you tie in a bonus to sets and then shows. I would even give them a show ratio bonus. Because when you have a caller, for them to set somebody's easy. Oh yeah, Johnny, hey, we got an interview for you. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock, we're gonna get you on the schedule. Sound good? Okay, great, boom, got another one. That don't sound like they're gonna show up, does it? No, so if you incentivize a caller based upon sets, all that is a name on a sheet of paper next to a time, right? So I would typically incentivize off of shows, Now they're going to spend time on the phone. They're going to really make sure that the person has the link. You know, they're going to probably send them a reminder text message. So I would hold them accountable to making sure that not only do they set them, but they follow through and make sure that they show up. And then you incentivize them off the shows, right? Now, if you think about it, if we need to set 40 interviews, how many would show out of 40? We're about 1 out of 3. So that'd be 12, maybe. About 12 people will show, right? So you could give them like $5 a show. There's an extra $60 for the week. Give them $10 a show. You know, there's an extra $120 for the week. Whatever you want to do there. So, so that's how I did. I played around with that. But now I'm saying all this because now you got to think if they're going to be making how many phone calls. You know, you got to think they're going to be making 20 hours of calls. Let's just call it for easy numbers. So they're going to call for 20 hours. And I know they can make 25 calls an hour, right? How many times do I want them calling them leads? Do I want them to call the leads one time? No, I want them to probably call through the leads at least 4 times for the week, right? So for them to call through the leads 4 times and they're going to call 25 calls an hour times 20 hours is how much? 25 calls an hour times 20 hours. 25 times 20 is 500 phone calls they're going to make, right? And I want them to call the leads 4 times each this week. How many leads do I need to buy?
$125.
There we go. Okay, you got it. 125. So essentially, you could tell yourself, listen, if I got this person a pack of about 100 leads, 100 resumes, that they should be able to call that 5 times for the week, and we'll be fine with that. You know. So, but you want to give them good, fresh ones, stuff that makes sense. I mean, if they're calling some beat up stuff, then you might not want them to call through twice. So the philosophy is if it's a brand new one, you might not want to leave a message right away. You want to hit them and call them and catch them live. So you want to call it. But if I've called through it now, because after week 1 goes by, they're going to have leads from week 1, but then you're going to give them leads for week 2 now to call, fresh ones. Okay. So what I tell them to do is with the week 1 leads, when you call through the week 1 leads again, leave them a message this time. After you call them about 5 times and they're a week old, now you leave them a message. So there's just some just stuff to do, you know, and what happens is, guys, when you start doing this and you're coaching up and you're running the system, you're going to mess up, man. You're going to probably get some bad leads one time. You're going to have a bad caller. Your script, they're not going to be, stuff's going to have to get adjusted and changed and stuff like that. So, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. And then if you kind of just ask questions and stuff, I made enough mistakes for everybody here. So I've spent tons of money and tons of time on recruiting, and not all of it was extremely profitable. I'll tell you that much. In fact, probably the majority of them were not profitable. Like Ray Dalio says, you know Ray Dalio? Okay. Ray Dalio's a genius. Okay. He's a billionaire. All right. This guy, Ray Dalio said that when he does his investments, out of 5, he only needs 2 of them to be a winner. When he invests, he wants all 5 of them to win, but he invests in things that are going to give a great return. So he invests in 5 things that are going to give him a great return. And if he loses on 3 of them and wins on 2, he's still way ahead. Right? So you can't be scared. Money don't make no money. Period. I'm ready to break the bank anytime, any day. Give me the opportunity and I'll break it tomorrow. I want to break the bank. That's my goal. What do you think? I want money sitting in my bank? That ain't doing shit for nobody. I want to take that money and turn it into more money for my family. And thank goodness I had a little business in the streets back in the day. Thank goodness. Taught me a lot. Taught me what you do is you take the little bit of money, you invest it, okay? You buy the profit, buy flowers. But dude, for real, my cousin does flowers. So I could talk about legal stuff right now. Okay. My cousin, he lives in Florida. He drives up to the flea market and to this market where he can get orchids and flowers for really cheap, right? And then he goes down to this like warehouse. I don't know. He got a hookup. He got the hookup on the flowers. Okay. So he got the source. He cut out the middleman, all that shit. Right. So he did it. He got the hookup on the flowers. Then but it's a 4-hour drive. He packs his truck up with all these flowers. Then he goes back down to South Florida where they have all these flea markets. Right. And he goes on a Saturday and Sunday flea market and he sells the flowers for more than what he bought them for. Right? Then he takes the profits, right? And he goes back and he buys even more because the guy told him, he said, listen, if you buy 10 flowers, I'll give them to you for $10 a pop. But if you buy 100 flowers, I'll give them to you for $8 a pop. So now he takes the profits and instead of put the profits in the bank, he takes the profits and goes up there and gets a bigger truck and buys even more of them. And then he got his boy. And he puts his boy he says, you go to that flea market. I'll go to this flea market and we'll cover 2 flea markets now. What a genius. Not really. Basic shit. I think a 5-year-old can figure that out. Don't overcomplicate this business. Don't overcomplicate shit. It's as simple as running the streets. There's people who get different types of flour and do the same type of stuff, But the thing is, the smart ones, they take the money and they put it back into it. So that's what I learned growing up. That was just the lessons that I learned, and I'm glad it went down the way it did. Because when I came into business, I was fearless. When I came into business, I was like, oh my God, this is a place. I was a stockbroker because I wanted to know everything about the stock market because I wanted to invest my money and turn it into more money. And I thought the stock market was the place to do it. Find out I took all my money out of the stock market and I put it into this business. And this business has made me a millionaire over and over and over. Now, I mean, everybody's running around doing all that. I still take my money and try and find a way to put it back into this business. Here, I'll tell you what the richest man in this company was saying. He's saying, let's see here. Over income, opportunity. I'm going to find Rick Altig. He said that the owner, Bernard Rappaport, founded this company. Bernard Rappaport met with Rick Altig. And this is what he told him. He said, if I were you, I would invest every dollar that I had into your business right now. And this was like 30 some years ago. So Rick Altig took that to light and he literally invests like at 90 cents of every dollar that he gets, he puts it back into the business. I still want to know how he does it, but that's what he does. That's how high of this guy, but he's the richest man in American income. He makes $1 million a month before he wakes up. I mean, that's better than Lil Wayne. You know what I'm saying? That's better than all these people, dude. For real. Like to make $1 million a month before you wake up, you know how much money you'd have to have saved up for that? That's 12 million a year. You'd have to have $400 million. $400 million. Write that down. $400 million in a investment account, okay? And you live off of 3% a year of that. What's 3% a year of that? 12 million, which is $1 million a month. Drake don't got $400 million saved up. That's almost $500 million, right? Isn't 1,000 million a billion? Right? So Rick Altig, 60 some years old, nice guy. He invests all his money into the business. So right now is the time for us to generate massive wealth right now. And for the next 10 years, the next 10 years is going to be massive wealth generation for you, your family, and now's the time. You know, my dad would always say, you got to get it while the getting's good. Tommy, if they're giving a bonus this month, you better go get the bonus this month because it might not be there next month. And that's how my dad's advice was. He was always like, you got to get the money while the getting is good. You got to get on it while you can get on it. You never know when this opportunity is going to go by, right? So with that being said, you know, here's what I began on. I want to let you know what I have written down here, guys. So, you know, by the end of the year, what I'm looking at is you know, I got MGAs here, MGAs, right? So we already have Vince, so he's an MGA, right? So Vince, Gio, Drew, Casey, my dad, and Josh. We have 6 right now, 6 MGAs, okay? By the end of this year, I have Melissa, I have Austin. We have Austin being an RGA. So this is where you guys got to get to work here, but this is what we got. We got Ryan Wilson as an MGA. So Ryan, we got you as you're pretty much going to be an SA here. You take care of business. You're going to be an SA definitely within the next week or two. We'll sign that contract, hopefully before the end of the month. Definitely by the end of the month. So now we got, you know, June, July, August, and then September, 3 months, GA. Worst case, that happens by the end of the year, and you're an MGA by March. Best case, you're a GA by September, MGA by the end of the year. So I got best and worst case right here, and it's a 3-month difference. So I mean, 3 months is no big deal anyways, but it's a 3-month difference is what I'm trying to shoot for. So best case is GA by September, MGA by the end of the year. Worst case is GA by the end of the year, MGA by March, by the end of the first quarter, by the end of the first quarter of next year. In that position, you know, the MGA, you guys, that's the position where you're making $200,000 a year, right? So the goal would be for Ryan next year to be over $200,000 in income. That's my personal goal, and I hate saying numbers like that because I don't want you thinking small. You know, like I tell somebody, hey man, you could do 4,000 this week. Meanwhile, inside of them, they really could have did 8. You know, so that's why I hate saying any numbers to really anybody, but I just want to talk about, like, we call these minimums, you know, and we shoot for well above these numbers. So when I, you know, say that stuff, don't be like, don't get fixated on 2 if you were already thinking 3, you know, and feel free to double these as well. Because I would always do that. Hey, you can think whatever you want. It's your head. You put whatever you want in your mind, you know. And I got something to end on before we break here. But Ryan, that would be the what we got here. I got my boy Dustin Caravaglia. You guys wait till you meet this guy. Okay, I can't wait for you to meet him. He is an ex-Army Ranger, one of the best people on earth. When my son was in the hospital, he left the United States and he went and lived in Italy for 10 years and just ran around the streets, never had a home, stayed in random people's houses, Airbnb, slept in cars, hostels, camped out, You know, like he's an Army Ranger. He don't give a shit. He's nuts. He's awesome. So I got him coming on as my personal. But when Antonio was in the hospital, he sent Antonio his Army Ranger hat and the blue Army Ranger band badge that they put on their thing and a letter. And it was sweet. It meant a lot when he did that. So anyways, I got him coming in, and he has all the potential in the world to be rocking as an MGA as well. And but then Melissa would be an RGA as well, because Christina should be an MGA running the same path that I just went over sort of with Ryan. The goal would be by, September, for you to be a GA. But yeah, to be a GA by September and be an MGA by the end of the year, same as Ryan, right? And then we have Marquise sitting right next to you. So you guys got to do this together. And then Melissa would be your RGA. So then I have Vince, will have Reich and Hunsberger should be MGAs by the end of the year. And definitely Reich would have Faith and Marvin as MGAs by the end of the year. Hunsberger should have Hunsberger should be an RGA. So not only he'll be an MGA under Vince, but he'll also be an RGA, and he'll have Stephen Ellis, Pat Sullivan, and Dalton Pritt as MGAs. Casey will have Gio and Melissa, Marissa. So Marissa Colwell by the end of the year should be an MGA running the team. We're all gonna be doing this together, guys. So we got to stick this together. Everybody help everybody out. This is gonna be something unprecedented. Nobody's ever done this before. Nobody's ever grown this many. People grow one MGA a year. That's most organizations. I don't want to be an organization where like, all right, we'll grow one MGA a year. This year it'll be Christina. Next year it'll be Jay Vaughn. 2025 it'll be Steve Ellis, and then 2027 it'll be. I don't want to do that. I want us all to do this all at the same time, right? So my dad should have Josh, Casey, and Mason. Mason should be an MGA by the end of the year. My dad will be your RGA. You guys will be recruiting and building a dynasty. Drew will have Tommy Whalen as an MGA. Drew will also be an MGA. Josh will have Drew, Jay Vaughn, and then I have a personal George. I have a personal George that I'm just going to tell him you got to be an MGA. You don't got a choice, And Tommy should be by the end of the year, or I'd say by first quarter of next year. Matt Jans, that's your job. You got to be the MGA, and Tommy got to be the RGA. Right? That's everybody who's kind of currently in leadership, right now. And don't forget, I didn't forget about, Matt Brown, who, when your retention gets fixed, we could have you as a GA by the end of the year. So you'd be an SA at some point when your retention goes up. And then we work as an SA, build your SA team up. And that gives you enough time to build an SA and become a GA. So remember, all this is talk about is building SAs. Like for Ryan to become a GA, all he got to do is develop an SA. So you got to get your person in and then get them to hit their 24,000 over that 90 days. And it's just coaching 24 at that point, which is easy math. It's like, all right, so what you do month one? Oh, you did 10. Okay, well, we need 24 and you did 10. So we got 14 left. 2 months, 7,000 a month. Let's go knock the whole 14,000 out this month. All right, 2 months have gone by. You did 10. This month you did 8. So you're at 18 over 2 months. 24 minus 18 is 6. So month 3, we got to do what? 6. And then we should be really good at coaching up to ALP. 6,000. All that is, that's 1,800 phone calls this month. We we could get them 1,800 done with the first 2 weeks. Let's do 900 week 1, 900 week 2, and get the 1,800 phone calls in. That's this many set, that's this many scenes. Just make sure you see, 4 people a day for 4 days a week, and we got this done. That's 2 before 5, 2 after 5. That's it, 4 days a week. We're going to call hard on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to go see 4 people a day. We're going to see 2 people before 5, 2 people after 5. And then we're going to pick our head up at the end of the first 2 weeks of this month, and you're already going to be at your number. And we could go and tell Tommy, we're going to get you promoted before the end of the month. All it is coaching up 24. And if they miss the number, figure out what they need the next month. Coach it up, coach it up. They're always 1 month away. Everybody's always 1 month away. That's the cool thing. Everybody's always 1 month away, really, from being an essay. Because, like, I did 24 in 1 month. So, anyways, so that's some of the vision that I got, and I want to work with you guys, as a group, but also individually on these game plans, because everybody here has different speeds they're going to move at, right? But I don't know. I wanted to bring that to you guys. I'm going to bring it to the other managers as well. But you guys cool with that? You guys like that idea? I feel like it's very doable. It's not that crazy. It's for the real world, it's nuts. For people out there, like, if you go walk around, if you leave this meeting and you go tell somebody, hey, next year I'm making $200,000, they're gonna think like you fell down and bumped your head this morning, or like, what did you put in your coffee? Right? So but it starts with that belief. And I want you to start saying this stuff out loud to yourself and to people. Say it to people, okay? I did that when I came in. I told people that I'm going to be making $250,000. And I know that when I left, my friends were laughing at me behind my back. I know that there are multiple people saying multiple things about me, probably not believing in what I was talking about. So what I did then is I used that as fuel to prove them wrong. Because I love when people tell me that I can't do something, so now I use it as just fuel to prove them wrong. So just remember, what we plant is going to grow. So your mind is like, if you go out into the field and you plant poison ivy, the ground that you plant that in doesn't care. Whatever you plant in it, it's going to grow. So if you plant poison ivy, it's going to grow. If you plant a rose bush, roses are going to grow. So whatever you're planting in your mind doesn't care. If you plant some bad shit, that's what's going to grow. It don't care. It will fertilize that shit, and it will grow it. So we got to be planting the right stuff in there, and controlling the sowing situation, and then every now and then we got to go in and do some weeding. You got to weed the garden and pruning. You got to weed the garden. You got to get the bad stuff out. And then the good stuff that's actually growing has dead stuff on it. So what happens is, guys, when you cut the dead stuff off, the energy from the plant goes to the good part again. See, you have a dead part of the plant. So the plant is taking all its energy and feeding it to a dead part, right? So if you can cut the dead part off the plant, now the plant takes its energy and puts it into the good stuff. So we get the weeds out and we can prune, and we got to do that as well. That's how we have great garden up there, right? So I know Marquise can appreciate that, and I probably should just pass it to you on that one, because you could have did a way better explanation than I could.
Tommy, that was literally spot on. You got it.
But I appreciate your guys' time today, and I can't wait to work with you guys, and I'm just really excited about this game plan here. So let me know if you need anything from me, and let's have a great day today, guys. We got a big week ahead of us.
Appreciate it, Tommy. Let's go.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
I just want to be a GAY. GAY.